Hi, and welcome to part 3A of our webinar that we gave on November the 29th, 2011. This is Mr. Fenwick again. I'm re-recording this part because it turns out that the previous version I had recorded had gone too long and YouTube didn't like it. So we're shooting for just about 10 minutes. This video is going to cover tonight only standardized testing. This is a big part of what goes on for colleges, and probably had the most questions about the forthcoming from our webinar. So we're going to get right to it and cover that tonight. And so standardized testing, it is a necessary evil. A lot of teachers don't like standardized testing. It is, unfortunately, the way that colleges admit their students, choose to admit their students. And so what are we left with? Well, we're going to talk briefly about the ones that are on your screen. The first one there is the PSAT. It is essentially the practice SAT. I'm sure somebody will probably tell me that that's not what P stands for, but that's what I'm running with. It costs $18, and it is administered at HLC in mid-October only to our students. We are a testing site for that. The combinations need to be prearranged, i.e. Extended time or different versions of the test. And students who do really well on it can become a National Merit Scholar. It is a good indicator for how they might do on the SATs, and it's good for sophomores and juniors to take. I occasionally have a senior take it, although really it's supposed to be sophomores and juniors. Next on this list is the SAT. The SAT is given up to 7 times a year. The cost is $50. It is still the preferred method for colleges, for acceptance by colleges. There are 3 sections: math, comprehension, and writing. The writing is not always looked at by colleges. It used to be the SATs were a 1600 best score. It's now 2400. But the writing, because it's very subjective and its scoring, a lot of times is not considered. And so when students ask at competitive colleges what the scores are going to be required to get in minimum, they need to make sure that they understand that it's one score on the 1600 level or another score at the 2400 level score. You only need to take the PSATs. Well, you don't need to take the PSATs. No one's required to. It's good to take them if you're going to take the SATs. But you only need to worry about the SATs if you're applying to a competitive college. Students who are considering going to community college or a technical program are not required to take the SATs, and quite frankly, it's a waste of money to do so. So unless you are a student, your child is considering this, please don't feel the need to push it. If they are, however, thinking about a college, TCNJ, Kane University, Rutgers University, they're going to be required, and they're going to need good scores. Okay? I had said in my previous version of this that we may have the opportunity to administer this at HLC up to 3 times a year, only to HLC students. I'm going to tell you that in the last week I've spent trying to get a hold of the folks at the college board who administers the SAT, and I'm waiting to hear on that. So more details. We are really hoping to give it this spring. But we will make that announcement as soon as we have that. So that is exciting, possible news. I don't want to break anyone's heart if it turns out that they're going to give us the real runaround. And so far, we are getting the runaround. The other test I want to talk about, and that we're looking into, well, maybe, we'll see, is the ACT, the American College Test. It was previously only accepted at colleges in the West, in terms of west of the Mississippi. But now there are very, very few colleges that do not accept a good score on the ACT. In fact, the list now is probably down into the single digits. And that has come a long way. Tests, at the workshop that I went to in October, put on by the College Board, I had the privilege of sitting next to a woman who is the past president of the Pennsylvania Council for high school counselors, and she could not say enough about the ACT. She really felt that it was really a better assessment of what students know and not what they might know, which is what the SAT does. and it's a very different test. If students are really overwhelmed by the SATs, the ACTs seem to be something to consider. At a cost of $30 versus $50, as of this year, it certainly is, especially with the overwhelming acceptance of the ACT by colleges. Okay, two more to talk about. The ASVAB is next. The ASVAB stands for Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. This is a vocational test, and I talk about this because it is a fact that not everyone at HLC or in life is going to go on to college. That's okay. I'm always very, very make it a point to make sure that when I talk to kids about life, that even though we talk about the word college, it is not for everyone. And you really need to consider, what it is you would like to do, what would make you happy in life. And if college isn't that, then that's okay. But moving on to something else is important to do. And the ASVAB is a tool that I think helps students understand where their strengths are right now in a non-traditional sense. There is math and English. But there is also a very strong science component, and there are sub-tests to this that talk about auto shop knowledge, about general mechanical knowledge, and general logic knowledge. And so it really can be an indicator for a kid for where their strengths lie. And if a student is thinking, well, maybe I really want to work with cars, they can take this test, they get a better understanding of where they are right now. And it's not a predictor, but it's saying this is what your levels are now, and it's something to think about. So I got to hurry up because I'm running out of time, I noticed. It is given once a year at HLC through the Department of Defense. It is free. There are no accommodations. The data is not released to the recruiters. No student taking this test will ever hear from a recruiter. We do not allow them to report it. There is an indication that a score on this test will result in a score within 100 points on the SAT. So if a student does really well on the ASVAB, they should get a score that should be similar to that on the SAT within 100 points. That data is not supported at this time for the ACT. So those are the big ones. The other tests that all students are going to have to take, be it in a vocational setting, a two-year college setting, or a four-year institution, is the basic skills placement testing. All students are required to take it if they do not get a certain score on the math and reading part of the SATs. So if a student does take the SATs and they get a good enough score, they don't have to take this. But if they're going to county college, they haven't taken the SATs, they're going to need to take this. It's comprised of math and reading comprehension. You need to pass both parts in order to take any college courses. There are no accommodations. You can take it at any New Jersey College Testing Center, which means if I'm going to school at Monmouth and I can't get all the way down there to take the test, I can walk into Sussex County College if I live up in Newton or Branchville. And those test scores will be available down at Monmouth. It is we'll leave it at that. So it's important if someone is going on to county college or to a vocational program that they take these tests and do well. I myself have, when I went from the service into college, failed the math portion and had to take it. And it's interesting the number of people that I talk to in this day and age that fail one or both portions of it and have to take the course for non-credit, unfortunately. You still have to pay for it. That end up taking the course, and they do fine in college otherwise. I think it was a lousy test that I took to begin with, but I also know I was horrible in math. So that is standardized testing. I'm going to wind it up now. Stay tuned for part 3B, where we're going to talk about applying to colleges and transcripts.